Hello, welcome to episode
Nine.
episode 9, season 1 of Let's Talk Immigration. I am Curtis Morrison, and this is
Rafael Urena.
that's who he is. I'm sorry that his shirt is distracting.
It does give a weird little effect here, doesn't it?
Yeah, but 2023 is going to be a weird effect, baby kind of year, so it's okay.
All right. So what's going on in immigration, Curtis? I know we've got some things going on your plate that you're working on. A big case.
Yeah, so I'll start with the ICE lawsuit that we're putting together. That's moving along very nicely. I'm hoping that we'll be able to file that in about 7 to 10 days. I heard today from the government attorney, the civil chief for the District of Columbia, and they are not going to oppose our pseudonym motion. What that means is the plaintiffs in this case, we do not have to use their identities. We can call them row number 1, row number 2, row number 3. I think the government realized that their identities have got out there enough, right? So they're not going to oppose that. I have 16 potential plaintiffs I'm working on getting contracts signed from. They're detained at Florence, Arizona, Georgia, El Paso, Texas, Aurora, Colorado. And they are from Ecuador, Mexico, Honduras, Jamaica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and I've got a prospect in France. So, not in France, detained, but from France. So we've got quite a diversity of countries. I'd like it to be more diverse. I'd like to get Russian plaintiff. And I'd also like to get more of the detention centers instead of just those 4, because this impacted all of them. I think it did anyway. So that's the thing I've been working on mostly this week. The other thing I was going to mention is I have a hearing in this case called Navid. That's next week on the motion for preliminary injunction. That's where we're challenging a lot of things, but one of them is the Biden administration's prioritization of non-immigrants over immigrants. So let's put that in front of a judge and see what happens. That's the 2 things I've been working on. Other things have been going on, though, right?
Right. We have several mandamus actions against both USCIS and state. Those are proceeding well, getting a lot of adjudications for clients, and we're handling a lot of removal proceedings. The asylum cases are moving in the courts, and our team has been working on those. We have been filing tons of I-130s for recently arrived diversity visa clients, and some adjustments of status for some marriages. Things are moving along. We're doing a lot of things. So that's what's going on at Morrison, Urena so far. So those things.
Right. So if we shift to the news, I see where the Biden administration has a proposal to charge employment visas fees, raise the fees a little bit more so that they can afford to hire adjudicators for the asylum applications. Is that kind of how you understand it?
Well, I don't know why they've been talking about proposing higher fees for quite some time. So I think they've said that they've been operating at a budget deficit for a while. So I guess I think they tried to do it under the Trump administration, but it was blocked. So now that they're doing it again, having really dug into why they're saying they do it, I imagine that every agency wants more money eventually. And if it's a fee-funded agency, that they would have to do it from time to time, raise the fees just because the costs go up. So it seems like it would be the time to do it.
Right. Well, I think it makes a lot of sense because the reason for Title 42 is because they can't handle the flow. But if they have adjudicators to handle the flow of migrants, then they don't have to do these crazy things.
Yeah, I don't think people or immigrants or their advocates would be upset about the fee increase. The fee waiver is available for people who can't afford the fees in certain circumstances. They just want to know that the value in which they're paying for the fee is worthwhile, right? They don't want to see a $2,000 increase in fees and still see the same backlogs that we've had it the entire time. So we want to make sure.
Right. They want to benefit too. That's true.
They want to make sure that those fees are being put to the right use, and then immigrants are getting every cent worth that they pay.
Right. And so in immigration news, there's also Title 42. You knew something about that?
Yeah, Title 42. I think there's chatter that Biden is actually going to expand the use of Title 42. He's going to focus. It seems the news says that Biden administration is contemplating expanding the use of Title 42 to some other countries. I believe it's Venezuela, Cuba, and Haiti. And I believe there was one more. I can't remember it off the top of my head. So it's very interesting, right? Because there was a promise to make a more humane asylum process at the border, but we see that the Biden administration is actually reversing course and entrenching sort of what the tools that the Trump administration used to expel asylum seekers. And that was irrespective of whether those asylum seekers had valid claims for asylum or not. So it's really sad news if they intend to expand the use of Title 42.
Right. I'm just reading it. Biden's planning on actually visiting the border too.
Right. I think he's going to make some comments tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's good.
Right. So we'll see what he has to say. I'm sure he's going to say law and order. Nothing to be concerned about, but we'll see.
I don't know what that old man will say. Okay, so you want to not too much other news in the immigration space.
Yeah, I think there was some news that we had almost 1 million new citizenship applications approved, which is great news. 15-year high in citizen application adjudications, which is great. The flip side of that story is that there was about 700,000 applications for naturalization still pending. So there was still much work to be done. But it is great news to see that legal permanent residents are seeking naturalization, and those naturalizations are being adjudicated at a 15-year high. So that's something to applaud.
A good chance for me to plug. If you have applied for naturalization, attended an interview, and not got a decision, you need to call us, because that's the law says they have to adjudicate those very quickly. So
60 days, I believe. But even if you have applied and you haven't had an interview, and it's been quite some time since you applied, there's likely an unreasonable delay claim there too. And USCIS isn't inclined to fight immigrants who are eligible for naturalization to get those interviews. So if you are desperately seeking naturalization, and there's good reason to seek naturalization quickly, if you're at a post, right, that has a big backlog in F2A visas, and you're trying to get naturalization, talk to us about, some tools to speed up that process or to rectify an unreasonable delay in your naturalization applications. And that could have a windfall in the applications for your spouse or child on the F2A.
Plus, you can get your parents here.
Yes.
Everybody needs their parents in the U.S., right? So
that is true. It's always nice to give back to your parents and take care of them. So if you want to do that and you want to do it quickly, we have tools that we can use to aggressively seek the adjudication of your naturalization application.
Okay. So let's check into questions. If you all got questions, today's the day to ask, because there aren't that many. Era says, new live, new year. Exactly. James, our what are we going to call him? Our best attendance attendee. Good evening and happy New Year. He's asking if we have a good luck update. We do not have a good luck update.
No update.
Musa is watching from Liberia. Hello in Liberia. I don't know what the weather's like in Liberia. I hope it's good. So Okay. So Lashkar says, you told us that 9,095 visas will be contributed in January. Did you remain that? Okay, Lashkar, there was probably a translation issue with what I said going into your language, because I never said that they would definitely be issued in January. I said they would not be issued before January. So we still have to wait 9,095, talking about DV 2020. We still have to wait until the court issues, the Circuit Court of Appeals issues their opinion on the Gomez order before the stay is lifted and those visas can be issued. And we do not know when that will be. No matter how many times people ask us, we do not know when that will
And
be.
to the point, there's some chatter about if there's something we can do to speed this process along, if there's some work the attorneys could do to make this decision come more expeditiously, come quicker, to be done with. And there's nothing we can do at this point. The papers are in. We did that on an expedited appeal basis. We had the arguments very quickly. Those arguments, the record is closed, and it's up to the judges now. It's outside of the hands of the attorneys and to do mostly anything, unless there's some drastic change of circumstances here, to do anything to speed this case along. So the attorneys are no longer involved in the process. We've done all the work we can do. We've put in all the hard work, and we are just waiting on the judges. So
Right.
There's really nothing left we can be done, and we can wait until that decision is made.
If you're on Twitter, go to my tweets. It's the top pinned tweet and retweet that to help bring awareness to the fact that the Biden administration is appealing these orders, because a lot of people don't realize. They think that Biden is immigrant friendly, and they don't realize that he's actually fighting immigrants in court. And so we need to raise awareness. I was really impressed with this tweet because it's already got quite a bit of traffic. 422 retweets, and I don't know, you can view analytics somewhere, and I don't even know how to read this. 121 comments.
So you got 42,000 people have saw that, and so that's great.
So we just need a few more millions. So one thing that I did today is I talked to a journalist about the appeal, because she was asking about like what big cases are on the block for 2023 in the immigration. And I said, there are tens of thousands of foreign nationals who were diversity visa selectees in 2020 and 2021, waiting to find out whether the Biden administration is able to end their journey. So that I'm hoping to get some journalists to pick that up on that and cover that story this year. So,
right. It's crazy that the Biden administration has two cases before the DC Court of Appeals in which they're seeking to expand the executive's power to keep immigrants out, right? We have a case about Title 42 there, and we have a case on 212F, which was the basis for the diversity visa termination of the program for Team 2020 and 2021. And Biden is in there, and he's fighting to say that that was just and that was right and that was lawful on both of those tools. So it's quite interesting that's the case. After his campaign saying that he was going to undo those types of things and undo the damage caused by those things.
Right. James asked for my WhatsApp. So let me see if I can do it. That's my WhatsApp, James. I've put it in the comments also. So, of course, now that I put it there, I don't know how we're going to get to the other comments. Maybe I shouldn't be playing with that.
Okay, I got it. We got it.
Okay, what's the next question?
Okay. Does a B1, B2 visa invalidator hamper the chances of an already scheduled DV visa? No, it does not. If you've been issued a B1, B2 visa, that wouldn't hamper your chances of a scheduled diversity visa case. Now, if you have a scheduled diversity visa and you also have a scheduled B1, B2, now they could say that perhaps you have some immigrant intent or something like that. But I don't think if you've been issued a B1, B2, that your chances of getting a diversity visa would be diminished.
Plaintiff of Ray. Oh, hi, Carol. You're in a very, very small group because there was only, I think, 11 Ray plaintiffs who were not issued visas yet. So do you think if we win the appeal, do we have a better chance of getting an interview, or are they equal to those people who did not take care to join the lawsuit? Well, with respect to Ray, Judge Chutkan's order did not give an advantage to the named plaintiffs. However, you have our representation in consular processing. And we don't mess around. We're going to do everything we can to move heaven and earth and get you interviewed and visa once that's possible.
Remind me of something, Curtis. When we started the Ray case, the Ray case was one of the first DV 2021 cases we filed, right? That was before, or the second one, I believe. And we decided to do those for only people that were current, correct? So I think the reason we saw there's a small group, I think, is because of the case numbers were lower for Ray plaintiffs. So I think those Ray plaintiffs may have a better chance because they're likely to have lower case numbers if processing goes based on case numbers. We have visa allocation dates that we know that are also come into play. So there may be some just some statistical advantages based on the group of the qualifying factors to join the Ray group.
Right.
We'll see.
It was almost 2 years ago, so I'm having to look it up. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But I believe we filed that case in February.
No, March of 2021.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's close. Can you imagine that somebody could be disqualified from asylum for forgetting that something like that?
Yeah. So you are correct. As of May 2021, all plaintiffs' visa numbers will be current. So that means Ray plaintiffs organically had an advantage over the general DV population assigned to those embassies.
Right. If the processing goes let's take that back. If we anticipate processing to go as it had been before the order, but we do not know how the government is going to implement that processing. So this is a lot of speculation and guessing of how that's going to play out. So we'll see. I think we just got to hold tight, see if we win those appeals first. Who those orders affect may be changed, right, by the appeals court.
Right. That's what I was going to say. And maybe that's what his question's getting at. One of the issues of the appeal is whether the district court erred in crafting a remedy that provided relief to non-parties. Now, if the Biden administration wins on that issue, that's going to be good for you, but bad for non-plaintiffs.
Right. Well,
and we didn't fight that issue aggressively because what we said is this is what Judge Chutkan wanted to do to satisfy the government. So you should go along with what Judge Chutkan wants to do. That's basically.
Well, I also think that if Judge Chutkan feels that she can't remedy, there's a danger that if Chutkan believes that she cannot remedy the injury in this way, that she cannot remedy the injury at all.
Right.
That would leave you with no chance at all rather than some chance with the group of plaintiffs. So that was the strategy that we decided, that why we thought that was necessary course of action, because if Chutkan believes that she cannot remedy that appropriately, then therefore you cannot get any remedy at all. So those kind of, it's double-edged sword there. We had to go one way or the other with it, and that's what we decided.
Right. The irony is the government had argued this isn't fair to prioritize plaintiffs, because what about all the non-plaintiffs? But then after she issued her order, then they were all just like, they act like all of a sudden they didn't care about the non-plaintiffs after all. That was just a joke.
Right.
So welcome to the U.S. government. I've lost my questions, and we were going to wrap up early. Let me see here. Let's get through them. This comes out. Hopefully we win. Do you think the government will appeal the court decision? I have no idea.
I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to go to the Supreme Court with it. But I mean, how can we really know, right?
Yeah.
If the Solicitor General will approve, I think it has to go back to the Solicitor General to get approval in the same way that the appeal happened here to go to the Supreme Court.
Well, it has to get the Supreme Court's permission too.
Yeah, and then you got to get Satori and all sorts of craziness.
So I don't know.
Let me tell you one thing. I do not want that to happen, because that is a lot of work.
Why didn't they do this appeal in 2020? Are there any reasons? Great question. And the Trump administration did appeal our initial victory in Mohammed Fong, Jong, and Kennedy, and then they dropped that appeal. So
Right.
they did appeal.
That's something I don't remember either. Did they drop the appeal after the order that didn't continue the processing of visas beyond the September 30th deadline? I don't remember.
Yes, they dropped the appeal after the second order. And I think what it is the Trump administration was bombarded with legal losses, and their attorneys were overwhelmed, and they just had to cut their loss and just say, okay, fine, we won't fight them.
Right.
But so they started to fight us on 2020. It was a good question.
There was actually a hearing on a 2020 appeal.
Yes, there was.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a job opportunity.
Hello, Robert Jones. Did I go to high school with you? Maybe, I don't know. I went to high school with Bobby Jones in Indiana. We're not hiring today, but send me a resume. DV 2022 is over, George. There's nothing we can do about it. I'm sorry. Namali, who asked earlier about the B1, B2, is planning to enter the U.S. on the last day of December, but she got her 2NL for interview in February. So I just decided to wait. Reason why I asked the question. Yeah, I would. Yeah. I would wait too, because you don't. What if COVID, the new strain of COVID comes along, closes the borders? You're trapped in the U.S. and miss your interview abroad because of COVID. So I would not be traveling when you have an interview. I would go to where the embassy is and stay at a hotel right across the street and wait for them to let you in. A Telegram question. Great. Why many applicants who filled out the DS-260 in the summer are not scheduled for visa category is always helpful. I guess your DV 2023. It seems to me that the administration is deliberately delaying and does not want to schedule an interview. What do you think about this? And the main question is how to deal with it. Write a letter to Congress or the president, suspend the head of immigration.
So there's a lot of speculation about why this happens. I think some people in the space think that certain indicating factors require more significant processing requirements, like background checks and these sorts of things, about why certain DS-260s are not scheduled for interviews or not processed when any other interviews are happening. I think it's something a little. I think the KCC is just disorganized, and they don't process. They put things in buckets, and then all those buckets don't go at the same pace. Because we see certain nationals of countries that may be indicative of a country that the government would require intensive background checks. In those cases, get adjudicated quickly, and we have other ones that don't and still languish. So there's a lot of speculations. We can't really know what's happening. the letters we wrote to Congress, you can write letters to Congress, to the State Department. I really
well, go on. Sorry.
No, I said you can write letters to Congress. I mean, you're not their constituents, but they may be concerned with how the State Department or the United States is perceived by foreigners abroad, and when these kind of things happen to diversity visa applicants.
Right. So the FAM code has a section that specifically says that your relatives in the U.S. can use a congressional liaison person to do an inquiry to KCC's liaison to Congress. KCC doesn't have a liaison to Congress, so it's directly from Morgan Miles, the executive, what's he called, the director of KCC. So if you have a family member in the U.S., if you search my Telegram channel, you can find how to do this. They can contact the member of Congress. The member of Congress can do the inquiry to KCC. And basically, KCC will say your case is processed or not processed. I mean, that's all the information they'll give. So it's not a useful information, but it's fun. I don't know. It's fun that you could do that. But I don't think writing the president, I don't think the president reads any letters that are written to him. I think that would be a waste.
Okay. If the outcome of Ray for non-plaintiffs on the appeal will come out positive, how many days do you think it would take to process the whole visa? We don't know. We have no idea how they're going to process those. The judge is probably going to set a deadline. If it's positive, we'll see where it goes, but it's impossible to tell at this point.
Oh, okay. So Robert Jones, I did go to high school with you, and I remember you. And Lee Hamilton, I was at a party of one of Lee Hamilton's reelection, one of his last times he was reelected. He was a great congressman. But he got a Panamanian college roommate citizenship by adding it to a spending bill. That's interesting you say that, because in 2022, there were 5 of those bills introduced. There's been like a few years where they weren't used at all. I can't remember what they're called. I have a whole Twitter thread on this from a couple weeks ago. But it is a thing. When there's an extraordinary case with very compelling equities, we can go to a member of Congress and they can propose a bill to get an individual family visas. Isn't that crazy? The current Congress can't even pick who their leader is. So I don't know if they're ready to move on to something big like that, but thanks for reminding me that that's an option. Okay. Do you want to wrap up early, Neil?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Final note. We'll pick this up next week, I guess.
Oh, yeah. 2 notes. If you have an Arabic speaker in your life, tomorrow at what time, Rafael?
I believe it's 3
p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rafael's doing a Arabic Q&A with I think
our law
Hussein.
clerk, Banan Alakras, Jenna Alakras, are one of our associate attorneys, and our paralegal Hussein.
Okay, great. And then on Friday, I'm going to do a Q&A in Spanish with Gladys.
Nice.
So.
Okay. Hasta luego.
Adios. Bye.